Okay, so let's do Silence, which is the new film by Martin Scorsese. Obviously, there's been an awful lot of press coverage about this, and it's a major awards contender. A film which he's been wanting to make for some time, ever since dating back to Last Temptation of Christ, adaptation of Shisako Endo's historical novel from 1966, which has, of course, been filmed before. So after the debauchery of Wolf of Wall Street, this is a story basically about deeper, more spiritual matters. 17th century, we have two Portuguese priests, Father Rodriguez and Father Gripe, played by Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver, who become an army of two, travelling to what they refer to as the ends of the earth, to Japan, where hidden Christians are being persecuted, forced to apostatize, to renounce their religion on pain of torture and death. The young pastors, who are sort of proud and impetuous, refuse to believe that their mentor, Father Ferreira, played by Liam Neeson, who has gone before him, reports have come back that he indeed has turned his back on his religion, that he has apostatized. And so they go out there sort of young and idealistic into this world that they don't really know anything about. And then the whole film becomes a very complicated debate about monotheism, about politics and religion, about faith and spirituality in the face of persecution and torture, about what gestures mean and what they don't mean, and about how one deals with those questions in the absence of a response from the Almighty, in the silence of the title of God. Here's a clip.
Don't speak to me. You have no right to speak to me.
Oh, I do. Because you are just like me. You see Jesus in Gethsemane and believe your trial is the same as his. Those 5 in the pit are suffering too, just like Jesus, but they don't have your pride. They would never compare themselves to Jesus. Do you have the right to make them suffer? I heard the cries of suffering in this same cell, and I acted.
You excuse yourself! You excuse yourself! That is the spirit of darkness!
And what would you do for them? Pray? And get what in return? Only more suffering. A suffering only you can end. Not God!
Go away from me!
I pray too, Rodriguez. It doesn't help. Go on. Pray. But pray with your eyes open.
You said when you heard that voice, that sounds like Liam Neeson. And I said, that's why I said Liam Neeson. But unless I said something else, but my brain definitely said Liam Neeson. So that is Liam Neeson, the second film that we're talking about this week. So this is an interesting case. I have to say that I am not entirely of the opinion that it's the masterpiece that some people think it is, although I think that there is much to like and much to admire about it. It's clearly Scorsese's most personal work since Mean Streets. It's, as I said, it's a film which he describes as dealing with faith and doubt, weakness and the human condition. And so it's weighty subject matter, and it's something which he's been trying to do for a long time and has had a very hard job getting to the screen. I think the things that work about it are it's shot with none of the sort of frenzied urgency that you think of often with, Scorsese's kinetic camera work. We are looking at these misty underworld vistas, Taiwan doubling for Japan, a series of very sort of arresting devotional tableau. And even the scenes of torture, which have been referred to by some people as sort of borderline torture porn, are somehow given a weird sense of serenity by the placidity of the camera, which actually oddly and perversely increases the sense of suffering. In the lead roles, Garfield and Driver do solid work, although for my money, speaking English with a very slight Portuguese inflection is not something which benefits the dialogue that they are delivering, which is, of a very sort of serious nature. And occasionally that felt to me like that wasn't quite working. Also, it's odd because what happens is that Adam Driver, with these very, very angular features, who's a very sort of interesting character, increasingly becomes sidelined, and Andrew Garfield's character, who has these delusions, as you heard in that clip, that he basically sees himself as a Christ-like figure. At one point, he's looking in a river and he sees a reflection of a painting of Jesus looking back at him. And the whole film is about whether or not his devotion to his faith is a matter of pride or whether his devotion to his faith is a matter of faith. And there's a long discussion about what it actually means to believe that something that you believe is right in the absence of, of anything else. There is also, during the film, quite explicit discussions about what it means to bring a religion or a theology or a thought system from one part of the world into another part of the world, and whether or not that's that's imperialistic, and whether or not there's a lot of discussion which Neeson's character talking about Japan being a swamp in which Christianity will not take hold, and Andrew Garfield saying absolutely not true, it can take hold, but it's to do with poisoning. There are, however, and there are some brilliant performances from the Japanese cast. Yosuke Kobuzaka, who's brilliant as Kichijiro, who is this figure who is essentially almost like the Judas figure to the Rodriguez, played by Andrew Garfield. Tadanobu Asano is fantastic as the foil to the Inquisitor, who's played by Issei Ogata, who really gives this magnificent performance in which, in one scene, he appears to physically deflate. I mean, it's a real sort of textbook piece of brilliant physical performance. So all those things are great, and all those things are in the film's favour. The problem is that alongside all of that, there are sections in which firstly, I think the Garfield driver stuff doesn't quite hang together with enough depth to carry the subject matter. Secondly, because of the way in which the thing plays out as a sort of theological, political argument, there are inevitably sections which feel, I mean, it's a labour of love, and it's loving, but it's also laborious. And it is. You can admire the vistas, and you can admire the intent. The intensity you can feel dripping from it, but there are certain things about it as a drama, as a piece of cinema, that aren't the best of Scorsese. And when Scorsese is on fire as a cinema director, almost no one can touch him. So I think that it's a very admirable project with some terrific performances, some performances that are okay, some problems with wrestling that material onto the screen, definitely some languorous moments, but substance, and borne aloft by the director's faith in the subject matter, even when the film itself, I mean, like the two characters in the film falters as it reaches for some form of eternal truth. And it is a flawed film, much in the way that its central characters are flawed.